Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tradition Mortgage Podcast. I'm Mike Greenlay, your host, along with Erik Hendrikson, our co-host, and our special guest this time is Paul Grabow, Executive VP of Robert Thomas Homes. And gentlemen, thank you for joining me. First of all, I just want to jump and say to Erik, the home building market, we've talked about it, for as long as I can remember now, just because of the process that goes from having spoken to people on land development, people on building, and people, of course, different financing structures that are going on. So, in the industry right now, give us your take from a mortgage perspective on what you're seeing in the market and how the trends are going and how the industry is going.
Sure, thanks, Mike. Glad to be back. Really, what we're seeing on the mortgage lending side is, again, there's a huge demand for home ownership. And coming out of the last recession, it spooked people. It took a bite out of a lot of people's finances, and you had a lot of people in rental housing. And we were very much below the long-term, averages for a while. And as we talked about in previous podcasts, everything will come back to the mean eventually. And the longer we went with less new construction supply out there, you knew that there was gonna be a time where it was gonna come back. And certainly the pandemic kind of accelerated that demand for home ownership again, and we've faced kind of those consequences of that quick snapback. But there is a huge demand out there, and a lot of people are sitting on very low interest rates on their existing houses, just one of many reasons why people are hesitant to put their homes up on the market. So there's just such a very small supply of existing homes for people that want home ownership, want something different. So they look at new construction as a great option to get kind of more what they really want, something that's modern, can fit their needs, that are tailored to kind of the lifestyles now. And I know in previous podcasts we talked to Adam Mickelson in Tradition Development about there's a really big lag time between when you source land and when you could actually get it entitled, develop it, have lots that you can sell and bring to market. So people that look to new construction, what we found on the mortgage side is that there's kind of disappointment when they figure out, hey, we're going to go new construction, it's great, but oh my gosh, I'm not going to be in my house for another 12 months because I can even find a lot in a development that I can sign a PA on, because of the backlog, they won't even start digging the hole for the foundation for 6 more months, and then it's another 6 months before the property is complete. So that certainly poses some frustrations, and as interest rates now start to eke upwards, people are kind of looking and they see the clock's a ticking and they're like, hey, I want to get going on this build process as quick as possible. But again, it's just the demand surge has just really been tremendous. That's what we're seeing on the mortgage side.
So Paul, on the home building side, you guys have been uber busy. You guys have had an incredible year, and to the point where, how are inventories and how are you seeing the industry right now, and what are some of the bigger challenges that you guys are facing as a home builder?
As far as inventories go, there's just nothing right now at all, and I know that does frustrate a lot of people. And a year ago, how things have changed. We weren't sure what was going to happen. Were people going to stick? How is the economy going to go? How is there going to be demand? And it blows us away to even think about what we've seen in a year. The demand is unbelievable, and it's almost too good. Where again, back to Adam's comment on land, you almost sell so much that you have to hurry up and go get land, and then that takes a long time. So it'll be interesting in the next year to come how things look. And really our biggest challenge right now is just supplies, from getting a home closed with all the appliances. After this is all said and done, I think we're going to have a tent sale for temporary appliances. So you're welcome to come. It should be whenever this whole thing is over. And our biggest challenge right now is lumber and cost of lumber. And we've sold out because of demand. We've sold out so far. And to Erik's comment that you're not going to dig your house for 6 months. Well, you're not going to be framing it for 8 months. And we're really hopeful that the lumber supply does straighten out, so it aligns those costs a lot better.
So are you finding that even though you have a certain amount of lots and a certain amount of homes, you still can't even source lumber ahead of time because of the lack of supply?
Right now, yeah, there's such volatility in the lumber market that we in the past were able to lock out a price for 3 months, and sometimes in a stable market, sometimes 6 months. Right now, we're basically operating off of a 1 month lock. So whatever we're going to take delivery on in that month, we're going to pay this much. And we've got great partners with 3 different companies we work with, and they're very good for us, good for us, but they're seeing challenges too. And for instance, a sheet of OSB that goes on the walls used to cost $8. It costs $58 now. So
Wow.
I mean, it's really what's been interesting about this is it's really made us creative, and it's funny because during the great times you just take that for granted and you just go, everything's going great, and then when you're faced with challenges, now you got to get creative. So we're looking at other means of sheathing, which in this case we're going to change to gyp sheathing. It costs significantly less. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing because you think, well, why aren't we operating like that all the time? Where
necessity is the mother of invention. Right?
Absolutely. So it's like, let's always be creative. So these times, I mean, sure, they're tough and they're challenging, but it really inspires you to you're thinking and how can we make it work? So
yeah, and Robert Thomas Homes, I guess the home building industry is morphing, and you kind of almost are a little remiss to try to put the different companies in boxes like you used to, right? So, in the recent past here, we on the podcast, we had Dean Nelson, who is the president of Homes by Tradition, and that is a very kind of high-end custom housing, where it's kind of a design build where you start from scratch and you go. And then really kind of the other side is what we refer to in the industry as production building, meaning, these builders are building a large quantity of homes. It's more of a pre-selected kind of mix. And, but really what I've seen with Robert Thomas is that it's almost this hybrid piece where you guys build on a large scale like a production builder, but the type of product that you're putting out there, if you didn't know more about it, you'd look at it and say that was a custom house that's been built. I mean, they're really stunning, and the price points are certainly right up there with on your bigger homes. It's right up there with custom home building. So I guess, how do you kind of manage that process when you're building at a large scale, yet you're building the type of homes where there is more attention to detail and other things? It seems like it's a challenging task, and you're one of again, a very unique home builder where you kind of transcend both.
Yeah, we like to call it's a semi-custom home builder with a production process. We really think of our front end as an assembly line, and that assembly line starts basically with the PA and goes through selections of the home, and then you go through and the selections is a one-day meeting versus several meetings. You're more limited to a custom home where, in Dean's case, they're able to go many different places and select many different products. We can select what we have in the design center. So it ends up being really good for a person that doesn't want all those appointments. They want one appointment. They want it to be streamlined. They still want to have a great looking place. It just less going around to different designs and different meetings. So it's really meant to just be extremely streamlined. And then as far as the real important part is the execution and the team that we have in the field and the back office here that are able to get all that done in approximately 6 months from the time when you're digging the home to the time you're finishing it. And the other company that we have is the RT Urban Homes, and that's meant to be more of a one-stop shop where you're picking out right there with the new home consultant. That day you pick your selections and you move on. So it's even more streamlined, and that's more of a production process even than Robert Thomas Homes.
Yeah, and I actually wanted you to talk a little bit about RT Urban because I know you and I have walked through one in the past or a couple in the past, and then I went and looked at the models as well, and I think they're fantastic. I mean, talk a little bit about the process, about the thought process of why this new venture, I guess we'd call it, and who does it serve, and what is your goal with RT Urban?
We really had set out to serve the first-time home buyer, the busy millennial, and we found that we also found another demographic, and that was the empty nester, where they were able to come in and downsizing. We have other product that is designed for them with our villa collection, but this just somehow fit, where we have a Rambler that's 891 square feet on the main level, and you can also finish the basement. But that's really what people found they needed. And again, how simple it is, where you just come in and it's like, you know what you like, you look at it and I like that, so you pick that, and then you can upgrade within that package. But they're all curated packages. Martha O'Hare did the design on them, and they're very on trend. Yeah. And our different cabinets, and again, we found that through surveying our customers, people really like it. They think it's just a great way to go.
I feel like, the RT Urban, some of those the villas, it's like the Rambler you grew up in back in the 60s and 70s as a kid, but all new with technology and just very simple and efficient, but really a fantastic house and very livable, and lives larger than you would think. So it's kind of there's not so many builders that are looking at that, but I just feel like it's just the modern twist on some of those houses that we grew up in many decades ago. It's just coming back in a new version.
That is an excellent point, because the house I grew up in was not much bigger than that 891, and I'm still here today. And it was interesting too, is it depends on how far into being an empty nester you are, because I'd walked with some people, then they were very interested in that home, and they were still imagining Christmas yet in their home. And they couldn't imagine Christmas because as you evolve and become more of an empty nester, all of a sudden you're going to your kid's house for Christmas, and you no longer worry about the Christmas tree or how the table is going to fit. You're going other places. So it was an interesting conversation.
When we previously walked through some of those homes, one thing that you mentioned quite often are your Minnesota suppliers. You're very connected with suppliers right here in Minnesota. How has that helped in terms of the challenges of actually getting things? Has that helped the relationship that you've had?
That's an excellent point. It has helped greatly. Like we talked about our windows that day being from Hayfield. Yeah. They really. It's interesting, and Todd Stutz and I have talked about this. We've toured their plant, and you go through and you're walking through this, and it's almost like they staged it for us. Yeah. That everything had Robert Thomas. There was a sticker on it. It's like, holy cow, you're welcome. But no, they really have made us a priority, and in our design cabinets is so much a priority, in our LP Smart side. All those have really made sure they've stepped up and taken care of us, and it's that connection has been great.
And that's what a relationship is. I mean, that's
absolutely
that's actually heartening to hear. Yeah.
One thing that I'm curious on that would apply to, I think, the production side of whole building and volume is just what components of a house are going to be continuously moved more into a factory environment, into that controlled environment, and then brought on site. People hear about like a modular home and they're like, oh, that's like a pretend house or whatever, right? That's not a real house. But now with technologies, and you talk about 3D printing and other things, it's like, there's a lot to be said for if you can build in an environment that's controlled, and if you have the quality to it and it can be assembled correctly. But are you using any of those pre-built components, and do you see that as something where that'll continue, and do you think that could possibly help with the speed of delivery and also cost?
Yeah, absolutely. We are very much a panelized building company. We partner with J.L. Schweiters out of Hugo, Corbar out of Hugo, and then CCC, and we're constantly asking them to push the limits on that. And the RT Urban, we actually everything comes out panels.
Okay, so you guys are.
It's all panels. So
there.
the day there's a foundation sitting, guys will come in, they put the plate on, and then floor panels get brought out. So all in sections, these things just get stacked down. Then the actual walls go up, and then the roof system is pre-assembled on the ground. Much safer, much easier. So it's all done and it's boomed up with cranes. So this house can actually go up in 4 days. And so again, 4-day frame, your costs are down, you're more efficient, you're able to build in a controlled environment. And to your point on modular, we have to push the envelope. I mean, we absolutely have to push the envelope. There's such a lack of skilled labor out there that what can be done in a controlled factory. I mean, I'd love to see siding and windows and rough-ins come out in these walls and everything done in the walls. It's truly, I think it's the future. And when you think about modular, I grew up in a modular home, and it served us well. There was a roof over our head, and it was assembled on site in basically 2 days. And so we definitely need that. And when you do think about what a house is, it's just a lot of boxes, right? So if they're coming out and it's boxes and modular, it's possible, and we have to push that envelope.
And there's got to be something to be said about the consistency of it too, because I think people want, when they see something, if they see a model or they see another home, and they say, I want that. Well, when they want that, they actually want that, so you can give them that with a bit of consistency.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've really pushed into that with RT Urban, where you basically can close to purchase your home online. There's a way to do it, but then obviously you come in and meet with a new home consultant and finish the deal off
From a design perspective.
Yeah, one thing, Paul, I wanted to talk about, just kind of to wrap up the podcast for today, is the financing side of it too. And obviously I'm with Tradition Mortgage, so I got to get a little plug in for the mortgage company. So I know everybody's been waiting to finally get to the good part. All this home building stuff is boring, right? Let's talk financing. Yeah, no. But, you talk about just trying to be efficient and to save on costs when possible. And you've seen this rapid increase in lumber and labor costs. Getting these houses to appraise out. That's the big thing we talked a little bit about with Dean Nelson on the custom side. And a lot of those cases, people are coming in, they may be paying cash, they're putting very large down payments in, maybe that cost to appraisal, maybe potential mismatch, isn't as big of a deal. On more the production side, you might, certainly with RT Urban, if they're younger buyers, you're going to see a little bit lower down payment situation. And, when people are buying a house, you're dealing in the lifetime, the current cost, the current market, it's kind of forward looking, right? And the problem is, an appraisal as a lender's tool is backwards looking. It's looking at prior comps, 6 months. So it isn't necessarily reflective of exactly what the market is. And I know that's a frustration to people when they see that appraisal maybe come in light, like, hey, here's what's going on in the market. And it's like, well, you got to understand how the appraisers, how the appraisal tool works. It's so there is some challenges there, and it's a delicate line. We're trying as a lender to support the clients and their desire to buy this newly constructed home, but we have to kind of abide by those lender guidelines. And we haven't had a tremendous amount of issues so far with appraisals coming in light on the newer construction, certainly in the existing home market. Jake Smith for Sotheby's a few podcasts ago was talking about people are kind of prepaying an anticipated year's worth of appreciation to get their house, which is kind of an amazing thing to think about. But certainly that appraisal isn't going to take into account that future appreciation. So people are oftentimes writing a bigger check for down payment because they can't finance the level that they maybe would otherwise want to do. Is that a topic that, when you're with your production people and you're looking at costs, are you thinking about, okay, that appraisal piece, and, have you been running into any challenges with that piece of it?
Well, it's definitely, it's been on our minds, and again, always so far hasn't been bad, but definitely worried, and we're hoping that there's just this gradual, because our prices have gone up fairly gradually and now a little quicker. So again, it is in the future. It is on our mind. Hopefully that there's enough. It was gradual enough that looking back is not so bad. And I think our prices are always close to what our competition is. So hopefully appraisers are seeing that basically all over. But yeah, it's definitely a concern.
Yeah, and that's where pace of closings too, where you can bring these houses and get them closed and build them. That build cycle. The quicker you can get that one closed, that's a comp to use for your next one. So that's what Robert Thomas does a nice job, is just keeping that build cycle tight. So yeah, if there's gradual cost increases, you got a whole bunch of comps that are kind of building up and supporting it. And then one last thing I wanted to ask about, because I know it's a trend we're seeing in the builder community, is for a long time, even on the custom side, a builder would like to basically what we call carry the financing. If they're going to build a house for someone, they maybe will get some earnest money or some progress funds, and they will build the house, and then they will sell the house to the borrower at the very end of the project, right? So the builder, in essence, is carrying that project on their balance sheet and with their costs, and they're kind of getting reimbursed plus their profit once it's done. And now, as home prices have exploded, and it's certainly for Robert Thomas Homes and other builders that are building a large quantity, all of a sudden now on your balance sheet you have a tremendous amount of costs associated with that, and you're borrowing from banks, and it's getting really big. And again, as build times maybe get a little longer, to try to manage that. And now there's again this trend towards having the borrower take out a construction loan. And on the production side, you haven't seen that as much. But with Robert Thomas, how are you maybe using that consumer source construction loan as a tool to help you get those houses built and into the consumer's hands?
Yeah, we in the past we're always 100% builder finance, and then as this has gone on and the home prices have gotten so high, and as we started to build anything that was over 800,000, we have now gone to the construction to perm financing, where the borrower and the owner will carry that the entire time. We have a really good program set up with Tradition Capital Bank, and it's been very successful. And I think we've got about around 20 that are under that program right now, but we've kind of stuck around that 800,000 mark and above, and it's really kind of opened us up to doing some of the deals that are 1.1, 1.2 million in the end. So it's working, and it again brings us a little level of comfort and a little less risk. So.
Well, Paul, sounds like you're very busy. I know you guys have we have many tremendous products, and we will circle back with you for sure, because there's a lot of interesting things going on in the industry, and we thank you very much for joining us. Eric, thank you once again.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.